We are
Hey.
building a bigger train. Hey, Pep.
Yeah.
And
See, it's so good. Okay, I have a story about confessional communities. And I love the shame inventory. I mean, but I want to tell the story about confessional communities. So I was having coffee with friends, and one of the friends is dating. I mean, she's not well, I don't know. She's not dating one person. I mean, like she's in the process of dating, and she was talking about the fact that her parents, what's important to them is for her to find a partner that has a prestigious job and a lucrative job and is educated. And she's realizing not only does she have insecurities, her own insecurities about dating, talk about vulnerable, but then she's also realizing those really are not, I want to find a meaningful relationship. And that flies in the face of what her parents want. And so we're all talking. There's like four of us. And she has a very meaningful job. She has a profession that she loves. And one of the guys in the group said, you know what, Dana, this just washed over me, but I totally imagine you finding someone in your profession that you fall madly in love with. And it is all about the things that you've talked about meaningful, rich relationship. And when he said that, she just lit up because he was seeing something for her that's very hard for her to see because her attention very quickly goes to what she was raised with.
Yep.
And then it hit me that it's a vulnerable act to listen because, like Curt, you've said before, when we are listening, then we can share what we're sensing, imaging, and feeling. And we don't always know that that's going to be helpful.
Right.
Or, I've shared things before and you guys have gotten furious with the person that, like, you've expressed your anger. And that felt really good to me because I thought, okay, you guys are seeing it as I see it. But we don't know that as the listener, if we share what we're sensing, that may not, that's a vulnerable act because we don't know how it's going to be received.
Yeah.
But then I also and then I want to know what you guys are thinking, but I also like that when I'm listening to someone, I think I don't have to fix it. I can listen to them and then just be aware of what I'm sensing, what is happening in me. And that's what I can share.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot in today's episode about the role of the listener, about the I feel probably more in like a confessional community type setting, not necessarily, where Carla's going and talking to her husband and being vulnerable in that way, but like in the confessional community setting. And just how important that role is. I mean, obviously, it's, the whole point. But I'm wondering, Curt, if there are even a few, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but even a few tips as that listener that are more helpful than not, because even unknowingly we can do something or say something that isn't helpful, right? And if you're fortunate enough to be in the situation where someone is bearing these things to you, you want to be able to respond in a way that would be helpful and not make a blundering mistake of some kind that,
Yeah. I think, it's a great question. I think there are two really concrete and immediately applicable, practical kind of guidelines to consider. The one guideline is that, and this is really, it's not complicated and really hard to do. Because, if you share something with me and I feel protective of you, it'll be easy for me to talk about what I want you to do, what I think you should do. I want you to call that guy and I want you to do this and I want you to do this, or I'm going to, whatever, like I want you to do that, or I feel protective and I like really miss it. And I say like, well, why didn't you da, 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 right? Why? That all kind of comes out of my feeling protective for you or feeling afraid with you or all those things. And so the first, one rule is just like, really, we have to be disciplined to keep ourselves from telling people what we think, and especially what we think we want them to do.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, Amy, about just being present. And you're like, well, what does that actually mean? So that's the one thing. The first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to refrain and grab the reins on telling them what I think, my analysis. No. The next thing that we can do, that's what I'm not going to do. I guess there are three things here. The next thing I do want to do is I can say, gosh, if it's really true, I can say like, tell me, what was that like for you? Say more. I want to hear more about what that felt. What did you feel? What was that like? So it's a posture of curiosity. I want to give them the opportunity to tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
Or to continue to tell me, like if they said, gosh, it really hurt my feelings. Say more about that. We might say, well, what's more there to say? Like, well, there's going to be a lot to say because the feelings are still hurt and I still want to say that they feel hurt. Like, okay, just because you say it to me one time doesn't mean you're done telling me that your feelings are hurt. You may be telling me about your hurt feelings this time next week. So I want to be curious and I want to invite you to say more about what you're like. Tell me more about what that felt like. Tell me what was that like for you, being curious about the other. And then the third thing is that if we do want to name something that I'm experiencing, like I want to say like I'm experiencing the need to have you go X. No, I'm going to tell you what to do. I want to tell you what I feel. And this is tricky because I might feel a number of things. This just happened to me this past week. We were in a group, we were in a confessional community, and one of the members said some things, and I felt very protective, and I kept waiting to hear what they were going to say to the person that they were talking about, that they had this interaction with that was about which I felt protective. And I said, I think I feel impatient with your not for any therapists that are like, this is tactically not a very helpful maneuver. And so we ended up having a repair of that rupture because I'm basically saying in my feeling of protect, like I want you to, not very helpful, but it came out of my, this longing for this person to be in a good place, but coming back and saying like, I feel protective. I feel worried. I feel afraid, but because I have this longing for you to have what you really long for. So, Amy, what you were saying, like your other friend said to your friend who's entering in the dating pool, say like I see the day I long for you to have but we're talking about what we feel, we're not talking about what we think. So, restraining, being curious, and also naming what we feel. And we are doing so with the confidence that what we're doing is telling the truth. Yeah. We're naming what is true about us in our connecting with them. And in so doing, they're having the opportunity to be more connected, actually puts them in the very place that they're going to be smart enough to know what it is that they actually need to do.
Right.
I don't need to tell them that.
Well, and like Pep, like to you're saying, how do we stop from making a blunder? And then like Curt, your example where you said, I'm feeling impatient. That's where if we stay, then that person can say, you know what do you mean you're impatient? Like then you repair that rupture. It's like if everybody stays, even if we're transparent and if there is a blunder, then it's like that can even that can be
right
of purpose.
Yeah, right. That's a great point.
I think I would go further too and say, Amy, this is what's really important, is that when we get on the when we move onto the train of healing,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is true for me. Like I just assume it's just going to be a straight line
Yeah.
of progression.
Ah.
And part of how I expect that to be is like, oh my gosh, here's this idea of a confessional community. This is great. And in the context of that community, there's only going to be, love and peace. Like nobody's ever going to hurt anybody. Nobody's going to piss people off. No, there's not going to be any wounding. And this, of course, is like evil would love for you to think that this, because then like when it does happen, I'm like, well, this is just like every other group. But to your point, Aim, if we're willing to stay, we come to recognize that, we all start putting our best foot forward. We're all going to work to be vulnerable. We're all going to work to be kind. But the safer and the more comfortable and confident I become with you, the less guarded I am.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which means there will be greater opportunity for some of those more ancient parts of me to come into the room. Like this moment that happened with me and one of our patients in our confessional community this past week. This group has been together for 5 years. And this is a person that their growth has been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, and so and we've had plenty of moments in which I have, felt protective, and she's done a ton of work, and we worked together, and all the things. And so there is this felt sense of like, oh, I get to a point where, like 2 years ago, I probably never would have said that.
Right.
That easily. But I'm like, I can just be myself with this person in a way like, oh. And when I did, it touched a really tender part of her, a really old part of this person. I'm like, oh, wow. And there is my shame attendant that wants to, like, in that moment, say, like, yeah, you really, what were you thinking? So there's a whole. I mean, we can come back at some point and talk about rupture and repair, which we probably should do.
Yeah.
About tactics and way to do that.
But it's almost a beautiful thing that you felt like you could just say that, because that comes from a place of knowing, if I know somebody, the people in my life that I know are not going to leave, I have more freedom with, and that is beautiful.
Yeah. If we ever get back to it, I'll just say, there's no question that my relationship with this person is stronger now than it was a week ago.
I saw a photo this week, and it was 3 lines of like jugs, like water containers of some kind. And the first line had, everyone had a little more water in it. The second one had like more, like a higher, the levels went up. And the third one was like all over the place. And before each one, it said, this is progress. This is progress. This is progress. Right?
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that neat?
It doesn't have to be a straight line. It's not going to be a straight line.
Right. And you're going to pour the water out of the bucket, but it's still progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is evil's intention to use shame even to be monitoring that part of me that is monitoring my progress.
Yeah.
Such that, in any given moment, like, and we've said, we have this one incident in one of our communities where a person said this a few months ago, said, I've been at this work for 25 years and I'm still like, this is what's still happening to me. Like really like upset with themselves, or how is it that I've been like, why can't there be? And we would say, oh, wait, we want to wait in this moment. Like, because in this moment, the moment in which these things are being said to you, this is evil coming for you. The very act of your saying this. And we want to say, we would just like for us to pause. And we want to say to your shame attendant, thank you for your service, but we don't need this in the room. We want you to return to the present moment. Nobody here is analyzing where you are compared to where you've been and compared to where you're supposed to be going. We're just right here. And that's what we want you to remember.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff, man.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. All right. I think that's a good
All right,
place to
guys.
wrap her up.
Yeah.
All right then.